Hey, everybody. Peter Bexelman here and Julie Muse. How are you, Julie?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. And I'm even doing more awesome to be able to spend Tuesday night with all these wonderful people like Brad and Brenda, Chris, Donald, George, Gordon, Michael, Ralph, Shay, Stanley. I mean, the names go on, but I am totally excited to talk about what we're going to be talking about tonight. One of my absolute favorite subjects, which is finding motivated sellers.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As you can see, I'm a little bit rushing around here because I am not where I usually am. I'm actually here at the lake house, very close to Julie. Usually I do this from in town, but today I'm really close at the lake house. And so if you see the kitchen behind me, it's not because I'm trying to be unprofessional. It's the best lighting here, actually. So that's the way it.
Hey, you should do a cooking show, Peter.
I don't know. I don't know about that. My cooking, especially when I will show you guys something cool. I don't know if you could see it or not. Julie's been here a bunch, but those right there, that's the lake. That's about 250 miles of shoreline of Lake Lanier, and it's an amazing, amazing place. So I can't do a cook show, but maybe one day I could do this on our boat, and that would be really, really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to get started here, guys, in just a minute or two. We appreciate you guys being here. Peter and Julie, we've been doing this forever and ever, really since we started partnering with people across the United States, putting real estate deals. Tuesday nights have become something really special for both Julie and I. So tonight's going to be really cool because tonight we're going to get into the nitty gritty of real estate. Like, you know, it's all exciting when we talk about stories, when we share successes. Sometimes we talk about some of the things that didn't work out perfectly, but ultimately you got to get down to business, right? Ultimately, you got to do something in this business to make money. And that's what tonight's all about. We're going to share with you guys about working with motivated sellers. And I could tell you, like, if Julie and I could pick out 40 minutes and talk about anything, like we could talk about construction, we could talk about maybe raising capital, the art of closing a deal, coordinating buyers, sellers, inspections. I mean, you know, really, there is no shortage of things for Julie and I to talk about. There's none more relevant topic than Julie and I can be talking about in terms of making money than what we're going to talk to you guys about today. So for those of you that are like at the point where like, okay, I'm ready to make money. I need some action steps. I need to know what to do. Like, what is the one thing I need to do? Well, today we're going to be talking to you about that one thing that that you need to do in order to start making money. So get ready. We're going to begin starting here. Julie, I'm surprised you haven't said it yet, but Julie always wants to know where everybody's dialing in or zooming in from.
Yeah. I was about to get to that. So as you guys are dialing in, or people that are already here in the chat, if you would put the location that you're from. And also, obviously, Brad Woods is from Marietta, Georgia. He is on top of it every Tuesday night. Or Alton, Illinois. We actually did a deal in Alton, Illinois before, Jermaine. Pennsylvania. Shay's in Los Angeles, California. John Walker from Rochester, New York. Gordon from Delaware. Dave from St. Augustine, Florida. Love St. Augustine. I believe that's the oldest city in America.
It is, and it's also the #1 place in America for people to get married. Literally, more people get married in St. Augustine than anywhere in the United States. That is like, I don't know how useful fact that is for tonight, but the reason I know that, there was a time that Julie and I ventured into Jacksonville. That was like our first market that we physically went into, set up an office, set up a physical location, just did really, really well. Probably did, definitely did hundreds and hundreds of deals there. And we used to stay in St. Augustine a lot of times when we go to Jacksonville. So, yep. So all good stuff. Where else are people from, Julie?
Well, George from North Little Rock, Arkansas. Ernest from San Francisco, California. Melissa from South Carolina. David from Washington, D.C. Kevin from Louisville. I'm imagining that's Kentucky because he said Derby City. Mr. Samuel from Austin, Texas, Ohio, New York, Paris, Texas, Sacramento, and Navarra, Kent, Washington.
Awesome.
So we're literally all over the United States tonight. And I can't think of a better way to spend my Tuesday night than to spend it with you guys, especially talking to you about the thing that makes you the most money. And that's what we're going to be talking about, because a lot of people spend their time and energy on things that really don't make them any money. And if you don't understand what a motivated seller is and how to find them, then you're really going to have a tough time in this business. I know a lot of you out there are like, well, you could buy things off of the MLS and you could buy things from other wholesalers. Yeah, you can. But your deals and your business is never going to build to the levels that it needs to be without understanding what a motivated seller is and how to work with them. Wouldn't you agree, Peter?
Yeah. As we roll into the topic of tonight, guys, I could tell you that there's things in this business that you need to do. There's some things you kind of sort of have to do. And there's some things that to this day, decades into this business, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't know if I'm proud of it, but I still don't know what to do. Like, I couldn't really walk into a house and bid it out. I couldn't supervise a general contractor. If it came to like, okay, here's 20 files, close all these deals, I'd probably stumble through it, coordinating buyers, sellers, closing attorneys, title issues, and all that. But the one thing that we're going to talk to you guys about today is an absolute must-have, especially if your number one goal is to make money as quickly as possible. Okay. And so obviously we're going to be talking to you guys about motivated sellers. But before we get rolling, there's some of you guys, some of you may be new to Julie and myself. So what I want to do is I want to take just a minute or so and tell you who Julie and I are, what we do, and how we got. By the way, for some of you guys, they're probably like, this looks like he's doing it out of his kitchen. I'm at the lake house, and it just happens to have the best lighting here. So excuse the background. I guess on Zoom, you could change your background, but I don't know how to do that. So, but anyway, so Julie and I are real estate investors. I've been at it for well over 2 decades now. I met Julie over a decade, and together she and I had an incredible, and still do have an incredible run in this business. When I met Julie, it was just about, I guess, a year or two out of the crash, the 08 or so, 09 crash. I took a little time off just because the reality is I got whopped when that crash happened. So I had to back away from the business for a minute just to regroup. Then I entered back in a business, and Julie came as really just, she needed a job, and I needed somebody to do some work. And that was how Julie and I met. And very quickly, I realized that Julie was more than just somebody to do some work. And so she grew, ultimately to the point where she did everything. She pretty much ran the whole investment company. And, I'm not shy to say that we did a very, very good job in terms of running our real estate investment company. We did tons and tons and tons of real estate deals. We understood the concept of leveraging through people, meaning we brought on other people to really scale. If you want to learn how to really grow a big business, you have to know how to scale. We brought in employees on. We brought on negotiators. I mean, we literally have full-time negotiators. I guess you could say we had a mini call center taking inbound calls. There were days, check this out, there were days that we had upwards of 1,000. Think about 1,000 potential sellers calling our office looking to potentially sell their properties to us. So when it comes to just like, when you look at an evaluated real estate investment company, you could say we were successful. When you measure real estate investors and who they are and what they do, we had a very, very successful real estate investment business. But like anyone else who gets to a certain level of success, the goal is not to stop or slow down. The goal is to expand. So our first expansion was exactly what Julie was just talking about, into the Florida market. We physically set up an office in Jacksonville, Florida. And that was our first time we realized that we can successfully do things outside our own boundaries, which happen to be Atlanta, Georgia. We rocked it out in Jacksonville to a tune of hundreds and hundreds of real estate deals. We had literally local presence there. We were just absolutely killing it. And we said, okay, well, how do we get even bigger, right? Because again, when you're successful, the goal is not to get smaller. When you start achieving success in life, the goal is to get bigger. And so we then started basically expanding through a model that we had put together. And we had set up presence locations all over the United States, all the way to the West Coast, all the way to like literally in California. And we're like, wow, this stuff's working. We're really getting a handle on how to do things outside of our boundaries. And let me tell you something. There is a reason I tell you the story. For those of you that don't know who Julie and I are, I tell you the story because to do things outside of your boundaries in real estate is very difficult. Okay, you hear people say, we would do virtual investing. Well, most people that do that, they're one-offs. They happen by chance. They don't tend to repeat themselves on all this. But we had developed this talent, this gift, as we spread across the United States, that, you know what, we really can do things outside of our own boundaries and outside of where we live. And so then we thought the next level, right? And the next level was, how do we even get beyond those 17 locations? And we came up with this idea of, why don't we start partnering with people literally across the United States? We would support them in terms of doing their deals to the best of our ability, right? Because we had traction back then. We felt like we knew what we're doing. We would support them. We would help them execute deals that they would identify. We'd even provide them money to do it. And we'd sell the properties, split the profits down the middle. And that was years ago where the partner-driven model was born. And here we are years down the road where I could say, I guess you can't really say you totally have perfected something, but I could tell you we are extremely good at our partner-driven model right now. And now we literally take our partner-driven model all over the United States. I think we do have presence at this point, as we've done this model, presence in pretty much all the states. And we literally look for local partners to partner with. And what we do is we provide what are known as pillars of success to people across the United States in terms of helping them find, identify, secure, close, and then actually profit from real estate deals right in their locations. And we do that by, number one, coaching and mentoring every single one of our partners. Julie and I are huge believers that this is not a business that you do and you figure it out as you do it. And how we know it from personal experience, because there's some things we try to do on the fly. And I could tell you from 2 decades in the business, it does not work trying to figure this business out on the fly. And really what it costs a lot of money. And that's really what puts most people out. So we Julie and I and the team here believe fully that you have to know what you're doing. And so we are huge into coaching and mentoring each and every single one of our partners. Number 2, it's about lead gen, right? It's a little bit what we're going to talk to you guys about here tonight. You got to be able to find people and identify people that are motivated, right? The days of, and we'll hit on it in a minute, the days of realtors, the days of wholesalers are long gone. You now have to know how to find properties and deals directly from owners. So for our partners, we literally provide a proprietary CRM system called Deal Engine HQ. And that system, that CRM literally on our local partners' behalf begins to market to local owners of real estate, identifying those that are interested in selling. And then once that happens, those leads get flipped over to our partners. So we get involved at a very high level, identifying good deals for our partners. We provide our partners technology in today's marketplace. If you don't have technology, you're in trouble. It's the best way I could describe it. Years ago, like in the Stone Ages, when I got started, technology was unheard of. Then technology was a luxury, and now technology is a must-have. If you're a real estate investor and you're still trying to figure things out through local courthouse, if you're still trying to pull records from 30 different places and combine them, I'm telling you, you're at a huge disadvantage. So we provide incredible technology through our app called Deal Driven to each and every one of our partners. Once the right properties are identified, we provide all the capital. That's a big piece, okay? And let me tell you why it's becoming even a bigger piece. It used to be, and there were days in business, and this was an attractive part to a lot of people getting into real estate, that there were certain types of transactions that you could do without the use of your own money. Okay. And there's still a couple sideline peripheral ones. Okay. But the big one, why almost like I would say probably 90% of us got into this business. Like when I got in this business, the very first thing I gravitated is I want to wholesale, right? Because I don't need money and, it's all these other great things that come with it. Well, those days are slowly disappearing. What I mean by that is this: even these big transactions that we're still very involved in strategies like wholesaling strategies, where you used to literally anywhere do them without the use of our own money, those days are gone. Okay, they're not totally gone, but they're disappearing. So even in the short-term transactions, you now need money if you're going to be successful in this business. We provide that capital. If we decide to fix and fill up a property, we provide that capital. So the bottom line is we provide all the capital to our partners to execute deals. The other thing we do, which is huge, if something does go wrong, and guess what? To this day, things go wrong, we assume all the liability, okay? Which means our partners have no downside and all the upside in this business. We then execute the deal, put it in the market, sell it, split the profits down the middle, 50-50. And that right there is the partner-driven model. And part of the reason, a huge part of the reason we do these Tuesday night webinars is, one, is to help our existing partners. It's another way for us to connect with them, teach them some more things, get them more motivated. But the other thing, the reason we do these Tuesday night webinars is there's a lot of people that join us that have probably, you might have been following us. You've already probably maybe talking to a team member, or maybe somebody just sent you a link. This is a way for us to share with people who it is we are, what it is we do, and to really get people interested in doing more deals. Why? Because Julie and I and the team here want to do more deals. We're all about doing deals. Our goals here are huge. We want to help by the end of the year in a 30-day cycle, do a deal with a different partner. That is a huge goal, but that's just some of our goals. So that's what Tuesdays and night are all about. So having said all this, guys, tonight we want to talk to you guys about a very, very important topic. It's a topic that you cannot escape in this business. I shared this. Oh, I think I even said it to you when I got started. There's certain parts of this business that I know for a fact are more important than others. Okay, in terms of knowing and understanding. Like for instance, like people sometimes are shocked. I'll tell them I've been at this thing for over 2 decades. I've done thousands of deals, and so there's certain assumptions people make when I say this. Assumption number 1, wow, he must understand rehab. Wow, he must understand, how to close out deals. Wow, he must, know how to process, raise capital, and all this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I know nothing about rehabs. Like to this day, I know nothing about rehabs. I haven't processed the deal. Okay, I haven't processed the deal in well over a decade. So there are certain functions of this business that I could tell you that I'm extremely confident in that are more important than others. But here's the other big piece I'm going to tell you here. There are certain functions that you almost could, to a certain degree, if you know how to leverage it out and get the right team members involved, you don't need to worry about too much. But what we're about to share with you guys here tonight is not one of those functions. Okay, if you do not understand how to find and how to identify motivated sellers in your marketplace, it is very possible you'll never get anything done in this business. Okay, it is very possible that the deals you may actually do are the wrong deals because you're going to be dealing with the wrong sellers. What happens is a lot of times when people don't understand how to identify motivated sellers, they do what we all tend to do, right? Like you try to do this doesn't work. So then you kind of back off, right? And you try to do something else. The problem in real estate that in today's marketplace, like as we sit here today, 2021, if you do not know how to work with motivated sellers and you're like, well, I'm going to back off of that. I'm just going to go find other type of sellers, right? Maybe not so motivated. Or maybe I'll just get my local realtor. Here it is. They're talking about, I'm just going to call Johnny the realtor and I'm going to have him you see, you cannot back off of this. This is a non-negotiable. And the reason this is a non-negotiable is I could safely say that this is pretty much where almost every single good deal is now located. See, there were times, and I share this with people, there were times where someone like myself, or actually myself, I did it. I would be able to call my local realtor and I could literally just kind of build a relationship with them. And I did. I built a relationship with some really key strategic real estate agents here in the marketplace in Georgia. And as a result of those relationships, there was a point in time I literally just had to sit back, and Jeff, my partner back then, that's all he did. He would get these links in the morning from the local realtors. He'd then get in his truck, he'd go out to the marketplace, he'd look at these properties, and inevitably every week, like 2, 3, 4, 5 deals we did. We spent like, I look at it now, what has to take place in terms of marketing, in terms of the kind of money you got to spend, the kind of infrastructure. We had like, I look at my first, 8, 9 years in this business, I didn't have any of that. I literally did not have any of that. But guess what? Even at the level I'm at, where I'm about as networked as anyone you're going to find, I haven't bought a deal from a realtor in years. And if someone like me hasn't bought a deal from a realtor in years, then I would strongly suggest that if you're fairly new and you're out there running around with realtors trying to find a deal, you're tremendously wasting your time. Tonight's not the seminar to tell you why, or webinar to tell you why, but I could literally spend an hour explaining how they're not looking at you as someone who's savvy. They're literally looking at you as a paycheck. And again, I lived all this stuff, okay? So that door has been closed. Wholesalers, I used to deal with wholesalers, but that business got so out of control, so out of hand. Every person now that gets in thinks they're a wholesaler, right? It got so convoluted. It got so full of daisy chains that legitimate wholesalers have literally taken themselves out of that, okay? Have taken themselves out of that pool, have now spent all their time identifying a couple key players in their marketplaces like me. And when legitimate wholesalers get deals, you as an individual, like a beginner, you never would see that deal because they don't want to be part of that mush that's been created, that rat race, infested pool that's been created. So the wholesaler game, unless you're like someone like me who's networked, who's got a tremendous amount of contacts, that door's been shut. And the REO business, well, that door's been shut because A, they haven't been foreclosing in a year, right? And B, the banks were very solvent. They were doing great. They didn't have to give inventory away the way they did back then when we were buying a bunch of foreclosures. So the REO door got closed, right? Which means in turn, the auction door got closed because auctions are nothing more than just an extensions of the REO game. So what started happening in this business, and by the way, this happens all the time. People think that real estate just kind of goes up and down. Well, it does, but so does every part of real estate. It constantly changes, including marketing. So just what used to work a little bit ago doesn't work anymore. So as far as identifying deals and where to get them and the supplier chain, the doors have been shut down except in one legitimate area, and that is finding motivated sellers. So what I want to, Julie, if you don't mind, I'm going to flip it over to you, and we're just going to go back and forth talking about how we find motivated sellers, what we do, what we've done. And I could tell you now, and Julie, you could vouch for this or not vouch for this because you probably know that our numbers better. I think all of our deals we're doing right now across the board have come as a result of us identifying with our local partners motivated sellers. True?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that no matter what the market is, when you understand how to go direct to seller, you don't ever need anybody else, right? Because everybody's worried about businesses going like this, wholesalers, agents, REOs. But this strategy has always been around from day one. Everyone in this business wants to go out and put a big flashy lights on the newest, greatest thing on how to find motivated sellers, but it's pretty simple when you think about it. So I'm actually going to have people put this in the chat. What do you think constitutes a motivated seller? Now, once we understand what constitutes a motivated seller, then we can start talking about how do we find these individuals. So I'm going to give you one example, and feel free because you're only helping others. So a motivated seller is someone that generally wants to sell their house, right, Peter? And is willing to take some sort of a discount. Now, that's one thing, but there are circumstances that happen in someone's life that get them into that situation. Right? So what do you guys think gets someone in that situation? Put it in the chat now. Like, for an example, unfortunately, financial hardship, like Ron said, divorce, John Walker, divorce, tired landlords. I mean, come on. There's a lot of landlords out there that haven't been getting rent for months, and a lot of them have mortgages. Do you think someone can continue like that? I would consider that a motivated seller. Shannon said somebody that's downsizing, death, divorce, facing foreclosure. Exactly. Maybe you got to move for a job. Maybe the house is just sitting vacant. Maybe someone has ran into medical expenses, death of a parent. Now, a lot of these things are terrible things that happen to people. So I want to be clear here that your goal is not to go after people that are in a desperate situation. Your goal is to make it a win-win for both you and them by helping them get to the next stage of their life. Would everybody agree with that? Right? So we're going to talk about a few ways this evening to where you can find motivated sellers. And yeah, I'm going to take it right back down to the basics. Because again, when I said earlier, everybody's chasing shiny objects, lead sources, this. It really all goes back to human contact. And how do you contact these people? Okay. So one thing on the most basic level, now that we understand what a motivated seller is, and this is like old school, is bandit signs, right? Bandit signs are a little sign, okay, that you place out in different locations that maybe says something like, I buy houses and a phone number, right? Well, guess what? That tried and true method still works to this day. Still works to this day. Now, you're going to put out a lot of signs. A lot are going to get thrown away. A lot are going to get destroyed. So don't fall in love with them, right? But at the same time, you could go and spend $500 in signs and get one appointment with a seller. Is that worth it? Yeah. When you do a deal, it sure is worth it. It sure is worth it. But are you willing to go do it? Okay. Let's talk about another tried and true method, Peter, of finding real estate deals. Okay. That, by the way, I don't want to hear any excuses from anybody, because let me tell you this. With almost no money, you can do this strategy and succeed. I still do this strategy today. I bought a house a couple of weeks ago that I found utilizing this particular strategy, because money doesn't separate you from someone else when you're doing this. What do you think that is, Peter?
Is it cold calling?
Well, sorta.
Door knock?
I'm going to call it driving for dollars. We're going to put it in a little bucket,
Okay.
right? So everyone that's on here, there's no reason why you can't go out into your marketplace and drive around in areas in search of a property that needs work. Okay? Like, if you train yourself to look for these potential deals, you will not be able to unsee it. Let me tell you, every time I go on vacation or I go to a new city, I can't help myself for driving for dollars, because when I got started, guys, I didn't have the money to spend on marketing. This strategy right here can make you the most money, but it involves a lot of time. And time, you can't really put a value necessarily on your time. But here's the synopsis of driving for dollars for those of you that don't know. For those of you that do know, here's a quick reminder. So I like going out in like blue collar working class areas. I'm going to just tell you right now, I am not the investor you see on HGTV buying multi-million-dollar properties, spending $1 million property, spending $1 million on rehab to sell it for 5 million. That's not my world. Okay. My world is I want to be in areas where the most people buy the most property. Who do you think in America, who do you think there's more of? Middle class or high end? Tell me in the chat. So I'll go ahead and answer you for it. It's definitely the middle class. Why would I spend my time on the upper echelon who may not be as motivated, who every time the rehabs are ridiculously expensive and there's a little pool of buyers? Work in an area of abundance. The abundance is in the blue collar working class areas, right? Where, you know, and you think like, where in my city are these blue collar areas? Once you figure that out, I could talk all night on where these potential honey holes are. But once you locate that in your city, and I'm not looking for neighborhoods where every single house looks the same. Does everybody got a neighborhood or an area around them where there's like houses that were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and this house looks different from this house, and this house looks different from this house? You guys all know what I'm talking about. I want you to spend your time driving through those areas. And I want you to start looking at these houses. Okay. And what are some things that we should be looking for when we're looking for these homes? If I'm out driving for dollars in the blue collar working class areas, like I just discussed, what are some things that you like would see about a house that leads you to believe that maybe the seller might be in a desperate situation? Because I would say, you know, really human nature, unless, you know, you're just a hoarder by being wanting to, most of us want to keep our properties up. You want to keep your grass cut. You want to keep, you know, a nice paint job on the outside. You want the landscape, everything taken care of. But there are some things about homes that you can drive by and you can clearly see something's going on there. They can't afford to take care of this. Geez. They must not be able to afford to like fix that roof, or maybe that gutter's just hanging down. What are those things? Well, let's look in the chat. So George Era says tall grass. Absolutely. Well, George says maybe it's just run down. Gordon says the landscaping's just not taken care of. Maybe the house, you know, just needs an overall paint job. If you really go look, you'd be amazed at how many you would find. Okay. You're going to see overgrown landscape, broken windows, sheets in the windows instead of blinds or curtains. Maybe the gutters are hanging off. It needs a new roof. Maybe in the winter, for those of you that have snow, there's no footprints. They've not shoveled the snow. Maybe in the fall, you might see tons of leaves everywhere. A bunch of trash strewed everywhere in the yard. Maybe just old junk in the yard. Melissa says notices on the door. I vow to you this. I promise you, if I went out driving for dollars, Peter, and I've proved this many, many, many times, I just want you to trust me. If you go out and find 100 of these properties, you place them into our software, Deal Driven, and you skip trace them, or you skip trace them from another service. Obviously, I want you to use our software, Deal Driven, for those of you that aren't clients of ours, who, by the way, Deal Driven is part of being with us. And you call every one of those people, and your only goal is to set an appointment to go see the house, you'll get a deal. Now, does that take time? Heck yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort. But those are deals. That's another way to find motivated sellers. Now, Peter, I know I've went on and on, but guys, I'm really passionate about driving for dollars, because when people tell me I don't have the money to spend on marketing, there's no excuse with the two things I just told you. If you're going to get in this business, you got to have a little bit of money to get started, right? You got to have a little bit of money to invest in yourself, whether that's bandit signs, whether that's paying for skip tracing, or join partner driven and all that comes with it, with not the bandit signs, but definitely the skip tracing. There's no excuse. It's the time that you're taking to call these sellers. So Peter, give me another one. And by the way, I'm going to show you guys tonight. My last thing I'm going to show you is how to find the hottest motivated list in your area. Would everybody like to see that? What the hottest motivated seller list is in your area? And by the way, when I show you, this is something all of you can do tonight. Tonight. You've just got to be willing to make the calls or send the letters. So Peter, give me another way to contact motivated sellers.
You know, Julie, before I do that, I want to point something out to you guys. Like, here's the huge other equalizer when it comes to working with motivated sellers. See, if you go back to the old school, the old ways we used to do it, and sometimes people like wish that they're like, Pete, I cannot believe I can't work with a realtor. I mean, you used to have it so easy, or working with a wholesaler. But let me tell you what I did not have control of back then, that you have 100% control of now. I didn't have control of what they're going to give me. Like back then I was, there were times where I was solely relying upon a real estate agent, or maybe 2 or 3 of them. Well, guess what? If they were dry, guess who else was dry? I was dry. If their inventory coffers all of a sudden were not being replenished by the banks, guess who was feeling the pinch there? When I was working with wholesalers, let's say a wholesaler had an off month. Let's say my biggest supplier had a bad month, which happens. I mean, that's reality, right? Well, guess who then had a bad month, right? Someone like me. One of the great things that you guys got to understand about what Julie's talking about and what we're, the examples we're giving you, you're in control. This is the ultimate equalizer. Meaning, if you take what we're telling you here seriously, and you're like, well, that makes sense, I buy into it. And by the way, there's nothing to buy into. This is reality. You could, verify all this and check all this stuff out. But if you buy in, if you're like, okay, this makes sense, the only difference between you and the guy 3 months ahead of you, or you and the one a year ahead of you, is how many contacts who's going to make, right? That's really the only difference. And, when I started understanding, and this has been years in the coming now, that we couldn't really work with realtors, couldn't work with wholesalers and all this. When that turn started taking place, at first, a lot of us old timers, we rejected it. We're like, this can't be. I mean, now we gotta put time into this and effort into this. Some of these strategies, take some money and stuff like that. But then it just one day hit me. Well, this is the ultimate equalizer. Because if you're telling me driving for dollars works, I'll max myself out. Plus, I'll get Bob down the road to work for me and max himself out, and Steve to max himself out. And guess what? That means I'll do more of it than anyone else. So the great thing, guys, this is super duper. The great thing about the strategies that we're teaching guys here today is they could literally take a brand new person working in the right environment, and you could literally elevate yourself very, very quickly in this business if you understand certain concepts, the concepts of leverage, the concept of scaling, the concept of building a team around you, the concept of aligning yourself with the right people. So this is the marketing techniques of today, and the strategies of going after motivated sellers are actually a lot more exciting, especially if you're one of the newer people, like maybe you don't have any deals behind you, or maybe you only have, a couple deals behind you. Because guess what? When we were all doing business with realtors, good luck getting to my realtor, right? I already have history with him. He knows I can close. He and I have a track record. He and I have had a relationship, and you brand new call him. You know what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So actually,
what else, Peter, is something that's funny that you say that when you talk about that, and you're talking about the greatest equalizer. Do you know, for me, what else it did?
what's that?
Is that whenever you buy from a realtor or you buy from a wholesaler, I'm stuck with their terms.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning there's certain terms that seller is utilizing. Like when they list with a realtor, they have certain terms. When you have another wholesaler, they have it under contract with certain terms. Now that I understand it and I know how to talk to a seller, if I could stand up and show you a tool belt, I can go to a seller's house now and I don't have anybody in the middle. I don't have anybody in the middle to mess things up. That's how I feel about it. Because when I go to the appointment, Peter, it's about doing the deal, but it's about finding out what their real need is. Do you know how earlier in the calls asking people what makes a motivated seller? We talked about death, we talked about divorce, moving, blah, 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 all of these things. Well, when I can go meet a seller directly, this is my new title. I'm a problem solver. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Not all problems are solved with a cash offer. Other options that you might have, you wouldn't even be able to even put that in front of the seller. But when you know how to be direct to seller, like Peter's talking about, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super smart.
And there is no limit to what you can do. If I want to wholesale it, I can wholesale it. If I want to fix and flip it, I can fix and flip it. If I want to buy it owner finance, I can. If I want to buy it subject to, I can. Now, I knew a lot of you may be fairly new, and those are some new terminologies, and I wouldn't even worry about that. But you are never, ever, ever wasting your time if you're sitting in front of a seller.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us want to learn. And guys, I love you guys being on the webinar. Thank you so much for being here. Do you want to know the true way to learn this business? Is to start going on appointments and start taking action. Now, it's important that you educate yourself on how to be a good investor, how to be a problem solver, understanding that you need money to close some deals, understanding that you may need a partner sometimes. But when you understand this part, you're never going to need anybody else. And that's the most beautiful thing. I could literally go pick up in any city tomorrow and start doing deals because I don't need to know realtors. I don't need to know wholesalers. I need to know how to be a problem solver to sellers. And I need to know where they are and how to find them. That's it. That's it. And that's the beauty of what we teach here at Partner Driven. And if anybody got anything out of this tonight, which by the way, I'm still going to show you guys an amazing way to find motivated sellers in your area, utilizing our software. But guys, you can take action today without anything. If you're not willing to do that, then what are you willing to do? Wouldn't you agree?
100%. 100%, guys. The cool thing about what we're teaching you guys tonight, there are no barriers to entry to this. You could literally take the information that we're giving you tonight and literally tonight, and if not tonight, tomorrow, get started in terms of finding motivated sellers. So let me just I know we're kind of running a bit long, so let me give you a quick one that this next one, I'm going to spend just a couple minutes on it. I hold this near and dear to my heart because I did this. I did this for years when I got started. It's safe to say that probably out of the first 200 deals I did, 100 of them I did as a result I'm about to share with you. We have some amazing partners that are doing what I'm going to share with you. One of them, Jamari Spruill, we just closed, I think I can't remember. He said, I think our 8th or 10th, it was a 10th deal with, and that is knocking on doors. Remember, knocking on doors is one of those, it's like, you don't even think about real estate when you're talking about knocking on doors. Knocking on doors is like old school, this is how people used to sell things. Well, guess what? It still works in real estate. It still works in real estate. And we have some amazing partners. Like I said, just one of our partners, Jamari, we closed, I believe, about 10 deals with, and every single one of them have come as a result of him knocking on the door and simply asking, hey, are you open to selling your property? I can tell you, I did this for years in the business. Like I said, I did tons and tons of deals as a result of knocking on doors. The cool thing about knocking on doors, if you're willing to do it, I get it, not everybody's willing to do it, but if you're willing to do it, this is one of the easiest ways to find deals. Let me tell you the strategy that I used to use. A couple things. One, I tended to knock on doors in small confined areas. Meaning I didn't just like randomly go all over Atlanta and knock on doors. I literally zeroed in on a couple, about 3 or 4 different pockets. The reason I did that is because I wanted to establish credibility there. I wanted to build rapport. I wanted to get known. And I understood that if everyone in these little pockets knew who Peter was, that when they wanted to sell a property, or anyone they knew wanted to sell a property, because of their relationship with me, they would automatically raise their hand and say, oh, hey, I know somebody that's buyers real estate. So if you're willing to knock on doors, I say zero in on a couple of key pockets. Number 2, when you're knocking on doors, this is the thing that you have to kind of understand. It's not the person whose door you knock on that you're probably chasing after that deal. Now, make no mistake about it, there will be deals as a result of that. But I can tell you from experience of doing this over years, almost all my deals came as a result of a no, I'm not interested in selling, and then a follow-up question. Okay, but do you know anyone else that is? Now think about this. Tomorrow, I want to challenge you to something. When you go back to your jobs, your businesses, wherever you're going to tomorrow, I challenge you to ask 10 people, like 10 colleagues, 10 people you talk with tomorrow. Ask them this question. Do you know anyone looking to sell a house? Not them themselves, because the answer will probably be no, but just ask, do you know anyone that might be interested in selling their house? You'll be shocked that I bet 1 out of 10 of those people, if not 2 of those people, will say, yeah, I think like my uncle or my neighbor, right? Because then you're getting to not just you, like you want to sell your house, but what about the 100 people that you know? And there's a much bigger chance that out of 100, somebody wants to sell than just out of 1. So when we used to knock on doors, 1, pick an area, pick a couple areas, build a rapport there. So everybody knows you there. Like we would go to their community functions. We would go to HOA meetings. We just made ourselves part of the community because we wanted to establish ourselves as the guys that buy houses. Number 2, when you're knocking on a door, obviously, are you interested in selling your house? But the next key question is what I was just talking about. When they say no, and most of them will, that's fair. Do you happen to know anyone else looking to sell their property? And that right there is out of the 100 or so deals I did knocking on doors, I guarantee you about 90 of them came as a result of that question, because people would say, come to think of it, Harry across the street was just talking about that at a barbecue. Or my aunt who's sick probably needs to sell. And by the way, that's how you also get beyond those territories, right? Because all of a sudden the aunt doesn't live in this little pocket that you're knocking in on. She lives 20 miles down the road, but we don't care where the deals are. So knocking on doors, concentrated areas, get to know the pockets, and always do a follow-up. If not you, who else do you know? All right, Julie, what's the super duper one you got?
Well, obviously, I love that one. And you know what's crazy about what you just said? And I have to just hit on this for just a second. It can almost be overwhelming to ask that question. And let me tell you why. You guys would be really surprised at how many leads, excuse me, how many leads you will be given. Like Peter said a big thing tonight. Who here tonight is willing tomorrow to ask at least 10 people if they want to sell or they know somebody that wants to sell their property? Who here tonight? Raise your hand on here. Give me a yes in the comments. I promise you, for those of you that are saying yes, those of you that are raising your hand, if every one of you took that challenge and really executed it, I guarantee you, you guys have a deal here. Does that cost you any money? No. And you'll be really surprised at the relationships that you can build. Now, because I value your time and I know we're running short of time, I want to show you my super hot list. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to share my screen with you guys tonight. And I'm going to share our software called Deal Driven. If you are a partner at Partner Driven, this is something you get. So for those of you that are partners, pull this list. For those of you that are not partners, well, obviously I want you to be a partner, but if not, at the very least, get this software because it's freaking cool. And you'll see tonight how all of you can pull this particular list. It's going to be a very small list, but it's going to be a super hot list. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, Peter. All right, so can you see my screen now? Peter?
Wow, yep, totally perfect now.
Okay, good, good. So for time's sake, I'm just going to use the city next to me. It's like a medium-sized city, not a huge city, but definitely a medium-sized city in Georgia. So it's Gainesville, Georgia. So I'm picking Gainesville. And what this software does is it takes the city center of that town. Now, if I'm looking at the city center, I want to go a 20-mile search radius around the city center of Gainesville. I could draw a polygon, or I could increase or decrease the amount of miles from the city center. Okay. Now let's go to the search type. Well, let's think about what motivated sellers are. Let's think about a really highly motivated seller. Someone put this in the chat earlier and they said tired landlords, right? Let's take it one step forward and let's find really tired landlords. Okay. So Peter, if you own a property and it's just sitting vacant, you think you might be motivated to sell it?
All day long.
Well, what if you owned a property that was vacant and you owned it here in Georgia, but you lived in Florida where you didn't live? You think
even more motivated? Even
more. So I'm going to stack these leads on top of one another, meaning I'm going to stack motivation. Guys, write this down. This is a super hot list, okay? Well, obviously, I want it to be non-owner occupied. Well, that's really the same thing of being an out-of-state owner, meaning I own a property that I don't live in that is sitting vacant in another state that I don't even live in. Well, what if within the last 90 days, Peter, I received a notice that the mail has been changed from that location? So that would mean that the person that lived there would have just recently moved out. So that's telling me I'm an owner that's from out of state that has a property sitting vacant and someone just moved out of it. I can't think of being a more motivated seller. And guys, think about it. And I'll tell you this as investors, don't ever leave a house sitting vacant. Every month that goes by, you are losing money. Your plumbing's going down. You're looking for theft. You're landscaping. I mean, it's nuts. So you don't want to have a house that's sitting there. Well, I want to take it one step further because I'm personally looking for single family homes, townhouses, maybe, duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes. And like if I lived in Pennsylvania, maybe a row house. Okay. But I only want to work with people that have at least 35% equity or more in their property. What is equity? Equity is the difference between what someone owes in their mortgage and what the property is worth. Do I want to call a motivated seller that has a vacant house and they owe what the house is worth as a real estate investor? Do you think that's something to go after? No, it's not, right? I want somebody that has a little bit of equity in the home. So even with this 35% in a medium-sized town in Gainesville, Georgia, right this minute, without leaving my home, look what I've done. I have literally found what I feel to be some of the most motivated sellers in the next town over from me. Do you guys want to see how easy it is to like get in touch with these people? I'm going to show you. I'm going to add this to a new list and call this a super hot list. Okay. We're going to save that. Now, once that's populating the list, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for my list, which is here, the one that I just created. Now, oh, here we go. So from a click of the button here, I am able to select them all and skip trace to find their phone number and their emails, just like that, okay? So right now the skip trace is running while I'm speaking, okay? And it's within a couple of minutes here, I'm gonna be able to literally have their phone numbers and their email addresses right here in front of you. So within 5 minutes, I'll be able to make these phone calls as well as reach out to these sellers, which is like literally what you guys need to take action tonight, along with the 10 people tomorrow. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this evening. And I really hope you took away with some action steps, okay? Wouldn't you agree, Peter?
There's no question. You know, when we started this, you know, I told people this is the fastest pathway to success in real estate business. Identifying motivated sellers and connecting with them. But the key to all of this that Julie and I always talk about is that it's not what you know, it's what you do. It's what you do. And that leads me to the final topic of tonight, and that is the partner-driven model. We feel like, you know, sometimes it's weird, you know, sometimes the veteran is the guy that should say, okay, this is the, you know, I've been there, done that, you could do it, and it's easy. And I guess I'm kind of the veteran here, as the guy that's done it for a couple decades. I could tell you this is not an easy business. It's a difficult business. That Julie and I could teach you everything we know about like this part and that part and this part and that part. And then when you get out there and you try to execute it, it's like, you're like, what are they talking about? You know, I say this to the motivated seller and they'll say this, and Julie didn't cover this and all this. And this is why we firmly believe that the ultimate pathway to success is to align and partner with somebody in this business. And this is why Julie and I are so proud about what it is we do. So if you're a partner here tonight, we challenge you to do exactly what we challenge all of our partners to do on a daily basis. Reset, recharge, recommit, utilize what we just taught you, and let's get this thing going and plug in tighter and more into the system. If you're not a partner here tonight and you're like, you know what? These guys sound like they know what they're doing. And number two, I want to be successful in the real estate business. Then we invite you to call tonight. I have it somewhere here. Here we go. We have a couple team members on standby to get the non-partners to be partners tonight. Like if you're at the point where like, you know what, I got to do deals. I get what they're saying, but I also get there's a lot more to it. I get there's a lot more training. I get there's a lot more support. And I get once I find a deal, I need the money. And where do I get the money? And how do I raise capital? And how do I close this? How do I inspect? There's a lot more to doing deals. So we have a couple team members on standby tonight at 770-746-8585. If you're not a partner and you're ready to take it to the next level and you're ready to start doing deals, then simply call 770-746-8585. If you're a partner, let's go. Reset, recharge, recommit. If you're not a partner and you're ready to get going, we want you to take the opportunity to make the call. Having said that, not this weekend, but next weekend, we're also getting together both with partner and non-partners here in Atlanta. And we're doing 26th and 27th, 48 hours of what Julie and I just did now. But can you imagine doing that over like a 48-hour time frame? You know,
I can't wait. I can't wait to see everybody.
Yeah, it's gonna be next level. We're gonna squeeze in a tremendous amount of knowledge, tremendous amount of techniques and strategies into over 2 days. So whether you're a partner, you're not a partner, we invite you to be there. We're closing the doors on this Friday. Okay, so just simply go to partnerdrivenlive.com. I think it's only like $99 to get in. Then if you bring a partner, it's not even half of that. So go to Partner Driven Live, and we'd love to meet you guys. If you're not made that decision, if you're not quite registered, do that. So I'm going to do my closing, and Julie, I'll let you do yours. But on behalf of myself and everyone else here behind us, I can tell you I truly enjoy these Tuesday nights. The goal is to get our message out of the partner-driven model, but the goal is to also give back, to teach, to educate, to give you guys tools and resources to help you elevate yourself in a business. So I hope tonight was one of those nights where you learned something, where you saw like, yes, I could do this, and now I know exactly what to do. So again, on behalf of myself and Julie and all the team behind us, we'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Julie?
Really the parting words that I have for you guys is success doesn't come without action. Okay. And really it's just about putting one foot in front of the other and mastering just one thing, whether that be bandit signs, whether that be driving for dollars, whether that be door knocking, whether that be cold calling from list. Don't overwhelm yourself, but start taking action tomorrow because you deserve it. And I can't wait to see you there next Tuesday night, but I also can't wait to see all of you guys that are going to be at the live event. It's going to be epic. Happy Tuesday night. Good to see you. Bye-bye.